It's 10:02. Thank you to everyone who has registered to attend this virtual Albert Carbon Calculator training session. Massive thank you to Rose, who is coming live from a Skype room in Barcelona. For those who don't know, she is the Albert International Manager. So she has been with us since the beginning of our journey back in 2018, and we're really appreciative of all the work that she has done for us here in Ireland, and we're really looking forward to stepping up the gear with this program, the calculator, the carbon action plans, and what's for the sector in the future when it comes to sustainable filmmaking. As you all know, we have a group called Screen Greening, which is RTE, TG-CAR, BAI, Virgin, SPY, and Screen Ireland, who all work together on this topic, and you'll be hearing more and more from us as the months progress, including concrete examples of sustainable filming practices in Ireland and other such information. So if anyone here has any questions, please do get in contact with me in Screen Producers Ireland, and I can do my best to help you out. Anyway, enough from me. I will turn over now to Rose from Barcelona, who will talk us through how to use the calculator. Hello, Barcelona.
Okay. Hello, hi everybody. Nice to be here with you. Yes, as Anthony said, I'm based in Barcelona. I used to be based in London, but now I'm back in Barcelona. It's a rainy day here. Anyway, let's get started and let's get to show you what you're here for, that is to talk about the Albert Toolkit. So I'm going to start with a little bit of a presentation just to put you in context, and then what we're going to do is we're just going to jump into the tool, and I'm going to show you the tool. I'm going to show you a few entries, how to create the production, etc. If you have any questions, because I'm guessing that many of you that are here, maybe they've already been using it. So if you have any questions of what I say, or questions that you already have before coming to the session, please, if you can stick them to the Q&A. So what I'm going to try to leave a few minutes at the end to go through the Q&A and answer as many questions as I can from you, okay? So let's get started. Just to let you know as well, if you feel like you missed something, a really similar session that we recorded in February is on our YouTube channel, and We Are Albert on YouTube. So as well, you can watch that video as well, which is quite similar to what I'm going to tell you today. Okay, so let's go into the topic. So who Albert is, obviously probably lots of you already know, but so Albert is a project linked to BAFTA. So we are owned by BAFTA, a non-profit organization. And what we do, we exist to help the TV and film industry to reduce the environmental impact and eliminate it when possible. And to create also, our other goal is to create goals and to create content that shows a sustainable future for our audiences. Yeah, our project is really, so obviously we have partnerships with countries like Ireland. And that basically our ethos is that we need to work all together within the industry in order to be able to push all those changes that need to happen for a greener industry. Okay, so let's talk about the toolkit, because that's actually what we want to know today. So what we did is we had a carbon calculator for a few years back now. As the project was growing and there was more international interest, from countries outside the UK, because obviously, as probably you know, the project was born in the UK. And so what we did is we decided that we needed to do an international calculator, an international toolkit, that we say. So a toolkit that it would serve everybody around the world, not only to work with other countries, but also to give the opportunity. We need to recognize that our industry is global, so that you can have a production in one place, but maybe you have, for example, in Ireland, we are aware that you have lots of co-productions, for example, in Spain as well, we do it, and probably co-productions from different countries. So again, we need to be able to reflect that in the same footprint. Yeah, so that's why we did it as well. So what you're going to find on the toolkit? So you're going to find a carbon calculator. There's the celebrity model, I always say. you have carbon action plan. So carbon calculator is to measure the impact of your production. Yeah. So we don't measure company footprints, or we don't measure one episode. What we measure is series. Yeah. That's what when we create the production of the calculator, you'll see. It's just to understand the impact that your program is having into the environment in terms of carbon footprint. Then we have the carbon action plan. So carbon action plan is about taking actions to reduce your impact. Yeah, both things need to be started, both the carbon calculator and carbon action plan, really important. I'm going to be a pain on this. They need to be started at the beginning of your pre-production process. Why? Because that's when you are making all the decisions. So that's where it's going to help you to make the right decisions in order to reduce. Then we have a reporting section, which we really like it because our old tools, they were more about measuring, but they were not that good at reporting. But now we acknowledge that companies, they need to report on their emissions, and more if they're claiming to get to net zero by X years. So obviously they need to report that. Then we have tips and tricks. So again, our old tool, it wasn't that explanatory on the fact of, we were just asking you measure this, but we were not telling you how or what did it mean. So we try to put as much explanation as we can, and the tool has been translated into different languages, which I'll show you later. Okay. So in terms of the methodology, just really quick, just for you to understand the back end of the calculator. So the emission factors that we use are from DEFRA, from the Department of Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. However, obviously those numbers are for the UK, but then in terms of international, we need to recognize that generating 1 kilowatt of electricity in Ireland has a completely different impact than generating it in the UK, for example, or in Spain or in Italy. So this is what we build on the back end. So depends where you indicate that you are, then the emission factor is linked and is the emission factor from your country. And these emission factors, we have taken them from academic research and open sources online, and from the International Energy Agency as well. You'll see that we have created some benchmarks as well, because sometimes for you it's not that easy to find a piece of data. And obviously you need to understand that the people who build this tool, including me, we all have a production background. So we know that like some of the information production teams, they're not going to know how to find it, or they're going to struggle. So we created some benchmarks to facilitate the data entry for you. And obviously those benchmarks, we have created them with we have 10,000 footprints already from the past on the tool, so that helped us understand the trend and create benchmarks, and also from open sources. Okay, so in terms of accounts, this is really, really important that everybody understands it. So on the other toolkit, we have 3 different accounts. So we have the broadcaster account. So if you are a broadcaster, you have a broadcaster account where you can see, sorry, I'm putting the microphone here because the room is quite echoey. And so on the broadcaster account, the broadcaster is not going to introduce any data or anything like that. It's just a reporting account. Yeah. So a broadcaster, as a production company, when you create a program, you're going to link that program to a broadcaster. You have that option. Yeah. So if you do that, that broadcaster automatically will have access to the data and your footprint, your carbon action plan, and your reports from that individual production. Yeah, so you are the owner, but obviously because they are the commissioner or the funder, I mean, I say broadcaster, but it can be a funder as well. So they automatically will have access to your data. The only data that they won't have access to would be the budget. The budget is only for you. Then we have media group accounts. So media group accounts are for big global media groups or local media groups, then they own different production companies. So that means that you have the mother company that, again, they don't introduce any data or anything, it's just a reporting account. And then underneath, you see the different production companies, yeah? And then we have the production company account, that is the fun account, is where things happen, actually. So in the production company account is where you're going to be creating productions, and this is well where you're going to run all the carbon action plan, provide the evidence, etc., etc. In terms of the roles that we have for the production company, so we can have 3 different roles. You can have multiple people on those roles, and you can have one person having the 3 roles as well. Yeah. So we have admin people, the admin role. The admin, it's the person or the people who are going to have access to absolutely everything from that account. Yeah, they're going to be able to see every production, and they're going to be able to see every user and every reviewer, everybody who has an account for that production company account. Yeah. And they're going to be the responsibles for creating new users and reviewers and new admins. So from Albert, what we're going to do, you need to request an account, and then we create the first admin. And then that admin needs to start creating the other people, yeah, on the account. And so obviously, we always recommend this to be an in-house person, obviously, because they have access to everything. But there is 2 types of admins, I would say, 2 types of roles in the production company that has an admin role. One, it would be someone quite junior to be creating in-house, but to be creating new users and reviewers. And obviously, the senior people at the company should have an admin account so they can monitor and they can see the impact of their company overall by looking at all their productions. Then we have reviewers, and then we have users. Reviewers and users are only linked to productions. So as an admin, you create someone a reviewer account. So that person, as soon as you create that reviewer account, they won't be able to see anything. So they log in and they won't see any production, even if the production company has productions. But they are only going to see productions if they create that production for that production company, or if someone assigned them to a production, and that's the only thing that they're going to be able to see, the data for that specific production. We normally have multiple users, so multiple users and per production. Normally users would be the people entering the data, so production coordinators, production secretaries, production managers. That doesn't mean that they have to collect all the data alone, but they have to input the data. That's how we work. You can work however you want, actually. Yeah? And then 1 reviewer per production. That normally would be a senior person, so head of production or production executive from that single production. The reason why we want the reviewer to have insight of the data is because the senior people of the production are the ones that can make the biggest decisions, the decisions that are going to actually reduce your carbon footprint. So a production secretary maybe can make the decision to introduce reusable water bottles. That's really good, but probably a head of production would be the person who's going to make the decision of, okay, let's choose this studio because there is renewable energy, or we need to spend extra money for electric cars that we're going to save on the long term, etc., etc. Yeah. So it's the whole production team actually should be involved. Not only the production team, but everybody on the cast and crew, actually. Okay, so I am going to show you the tool. Okay, I think you can see the tool. I think you can see the tool page. If you cannot see the tool page, can please someone, okay, can someone tell me on the chat on the Q&A, yeah, if you cannot see the tool page, but I think I've done the share, I've done it right. Okay, so this is the page, so it's ag.wearearbor.org. And obviously, if you already have an account, you're just going to come here and put your credentials, yeah? Okay, okay, we can see things happening. So what happens if you don't have an account or anything? Obviously, if your company has an account already, you know, you can try to find, you can go and find the admin in your company and ask them, can you create me an account? However, maybe you don't know if maybe you don't know if your company has already an account, or maybe you don't know who the admins are. Yeah, so okay, I want an account, so I'm just gonna go and click on create an account. Yeah, so here I'm just going to introduce my first name. Sorry, because you can see all the things that I've input before. So first name, last name, my email address, because your account is always going to be linked to your email address, always, not to your name, to your email address. The company name that you want the account for, and also the company type. So are they a broadcaster or are they a production company? If it's a broadcaster, but they also produce, so imagine RTE, yeah, so they commission, but they produce. So RTE has two accounts. One is a broadcaster to report on all their commissions and their all in-house productions, but then they have a production company account as well for their own commissions, yeah. Okay, so then you would click on request account, and after you click that, if the company doesn't have any account on Albert, then we will get an email and probably we'll get back to you, the Albert team, and ask like, okay, which kind of company it is, who should be the admin, etc., etc. We'll ask you a couple of questions before we create the company. And if the company already has an account, that request is going to go straight to the admins of that company, and they're going to create the account for you. Okay, so in my case, I already have an account, so I can just go back and just log in as me. Okay. Okay, so I mean, yeah, what's happening here? What's happening is that I'm not an organized person. No, I'm kidding. I have different accounts. So as I mentioned, your personal account is linked to your email. So you actually can have access to different companies through the same email. And that's what's happening to me now. So obviously I have access to the BAFTA main mother account. But then I have the production company account. So I have Albert Productions, which that's a fake account, but this is the one that I'm going to show you. So we make sure that we don't compromise any data. We don't show you any sensitive data. And then I can have completely different accounts for different companies. If you see here, I've got Albert Productions, and I'm an admin, I am a reviewer, and I am a user. Why? Because I want to act as an admin, so I want to see all the data, but at the same time, I want to act as a reviewer and as a user. I know what you're thinking. So probably you're thinking, okay, but if you are an admin and you can see everything, because it's a hierarchy, isn't it? So it's like admin and then reviewers and users. So I should be able to act when I'm logged in as an admin, I should be able to do everything that a reviewer and a user does. And yes, you can. The only problem is that you can't, when I create the production, which I'll show you, you won't be able to assign anything as a user that it's not, it doesn't have a user role on the account, okay? So if you have admins, the recommendation is that you assign them as reviewer, as users as well. So I'm just gonna go in as an admin, because just in case that there are some admins here, I'm gonna teach you, I'm gonna show you how to create an account, yeah? So you would go on admin, and you would go on user management. Then you just put on add user, and then you would put their email address, which obviously, let me see, because I think I've got it with all my email addresses. So imagine, and I say, okay, that's the person, yeah? So I'm gonna put continue, and I'm gonna click UI, and it says that person already has an account, yeah? Is already an admin and a reviewer for that production company. So imagine that so he's an admin and a reviewer, but I want that person to be a user as well. So I'm just gonna select here a user, for Albert Productions, and I'm gonna add. Yeah. What would happen if that person doesn't have an account? So I would put this, their email address, I would click on continue, and then it would say that that person doesn't have an account, and I would just have to fill in their name, surname, and which role I want to give that person. And again, you can give them one role at the beginning when you create their account, and then you can go here and then add different roles to that person. Okay, so let's go back to the productions page. So as soon as you log in, this is what you see, is the list of your productions. You might not have anything, or you might have a list of productions. Yeah, here you can see that the productions will give you the title, the series, or if it's a one-off, you can put the year. You're gonna create all that, the type of program, the genre, the production company, the broadcaster, and then here you can see phases. Yeah, so that's the phase of the production. Are they on the post-production? Are they in pre-production? Are they filming? This is important because maybe your reviewer or the admin, someone in your company, or even us, we want to check if you are on the right stage of the sustainability journey at the right time of your production. Yeah, again, I told you timings are really, really, really important. When people come to us and says, I wanna do my footprint, and they are at the end of the production, we tend to say no to that. Why? Because there is a lot of data that we're gonna ask you that if you haven't collected from the beginning, you're not gonna have it, and then that's gonna generate frustration, and we don't want anyone to be frustrated and to be negative about the toolkit. Yeah, so really important you start from the beginning. Then here you have the status of the footprint and the status of the carbon action plan. If you added the carbon action plan, sometimes, let's say we have a production with a carbon action plan, we don't, sometimes you wouldn't have anything in here, so that means that you haven't had a carbon action plan. What all these colors and footprint status and carbon action plan status means, you have the tips and tricks section here that I really recommend you spend some time on it. And we have some videos as well. We need to include more, but we have some videos on how to do stuff in the tool. Again, a kind of a timeline. Let me move this. Okay, a timeline. So if you just read it, it feels long, but it is not long, and it's really useful. Then if you go down, you have and how to use the Albert tools. Yeah. So for example, okay, I want to create a co-production. How do I create a co-production? So I just click here. And it tells me what else the statuses we were saying. Carbon action plan status. So what does that mean for me? Yeah, when it says in progress, when it says assessing actions, etc. Yeah, so again, I do recommend you go through that quite a lot. And then ways to reduce your carbon footprint. Here there is lots of links to our own website, but obviously you have your own program in Ireland that probably they're gonna have their own actions and their own tips as well. But yeah, I would go on this as well. If you see it says start early, again, mega important for us. Communicate is so important that you communicate everything that you do on the footprint and carbon action plan. Actually, if you do a carbon action plan, it's mandatory that you create a green memo informing on all your environmental goals, sustainability goals to all the cast and crew. Yes, again, you can't do this as a production department on your own. So you need the input of everybody. Okay, and go back to productions, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a production. Yeah, so I'm going to click add production, and then I'm just going to go here and start. Sorry, I have lots of names here. All the sessions that I do, and I'm really bad at creating fake names, so I'm just I'm production. I'm not creative. I'm a production person. So let's do test Ireland. Okay. Period name, again, is that series 1, series 2, is it a one-off, and maybe I want to put the year only, and that's it. Sorry. So here, 2021, What's the production time? So what do I'm measuring? So I'm measuring a TV program slash series, which genre it is. So let's say drama, that is my favorite one in terms of carbon footprint. And then the production method. Production method, I have to say, is not easy. I did create that, and it's not easy to find it, but each country and even each broadcaster uses different wording for production methods. So what we did is we tried to take the most international ones, so the ones that global media groups use around the world. So just to try to be as accurate as possible with everybody, yeah? But if you have any, if you're not sure about your production method, email us. You can always contact us at albert@bafta.org and email us, and we can advise you. Yeah, why? Because this is really important for us, because probably you've seen the annual reports that we've been doing. Actually, we just released one last week, and it helps us understand the industry. It helps us understand which genres or which production methods have higher impact and why. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to say is in scripted, studio, and location. And then the production dates. If you see the only data that you have to put mandatory is the one with the star, yeah? But anyway, we recommend that you complete everything. Again, these dates are just for your production to monitor themselves, or for your admin, or for your company, or for us to monitor like if everything is happening at the right stage. Don't worry if they're not mega accurate. And again, we know that post-production, the majority of times starts once you still film it, that's fine. So yeah. And the end of post-production date, the reason why we ask that is because we need to put an end date to the project, yeah? Okay, and then the TX release date, if you see here, is not mandatory. Don't worry too much, because normally it's the broadcaster who has this information. So don't worry if you don't have it, you can't put it. It's not a problem. Here we only creating the profile, yeah, of the production. Okay. Additional details. This is really important too. So here we're asking you how many episodes or features if you that you are delivering, and so you are measuring as well. So imagine that I'm on a series and let's say 6 episodes, yeah? And how many minutes is each episode? Not the total of the 6 episodes, is each episode, yeah? The reason why we need to know that is because we are going to give you the data in total tons of CO2 emissions from your production, but then we're going to give you the data of CO2 per hour of output, even if your program, even if your episodes are less than 1 hour, yeah? The reason why we do that is because we need a single unit for everybody to use, so we can compare different programs that in reality they have different durations. And then the budget. The budget is not mandatory to put. However, it's really useful for us to have it because again, we're trying on Albert, obviously we're not talking about Albert all the projects that we have, but we create sub-projects to try to help the industry. So to help the industry, we need to understand the industry first in terms of carbon footprint. So that helps us understand the correlation between budget and carbon footprint as well. As you can see, the currency is in euros because that Albert Productions company set it in Ireland, and because it's set in Ireland, so it's already giving me the local currency. However, you could change for any currency in the world as well. Okay, I'm not going to put the budget. Okay, and then the production ownership. Obviously, the production company is Albert Productions. Imagine that I have a co-production, so if I want my other company to have access to that footprint as well, and even maybe put some users on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on add another, and here I would I would include another company. Yeah, and in order to include another company, you can start. I'm just going to do, well, I'm not going to include it. So I start typing, and then here it appears me to different the company. So imagine that I want to say because I wanted to put hat trick. Yeah. So it appears here and I click in here. I'm not going to do it now, yeah? But you would click here and that's it. So then when you create the production, when you at the end when we save all what we've done, save production, that means that the admin people from Hattrick, from that company that you've chosen, are going to receive an email and that the email is going to say, and Albert Productions has shared the production, this production with you. Please go into the tool that you have access. And if you want to include any user from your company, you can. Okay, hope that makes sense. And then as a broadcaster, again, you start typing, for example, Netflix, and then you just click here. Yeah, you need to click actually, otherwise nothing happens. But now I'm gonna put unknown. Yeah. If you imagine that you're recording something for a funder or for a broadcaster that is not on our list, you can ask us to include it, or you can just put unknown, and that's it. It's no problem. And then users, obviously, it's going to be me because I'm creating that footprint. But then I can add any that I want, for example. So then I will click here. You can add as many as you want. And then, and again, so imagine what I was saying to you before. Imagine that my colleague Genevieve, they are my colleagues from Harvard, so it's no problem about their names. So my colleague Genevieve, I want her to be a user, but she only has an account as an admin. So then when I would start typing her name wouldn't appear. So I wouldn't be able to put her as a user. That's why I was telling you to have admin, user, and reviewer accounts for one person if they're gonna be users, but they need to see all the productions of your company too. And then I'm gonna click on save production. It always works, and I think it's my computer actually. Sorry guys, that's really weird. Huh? That never happened to me, and now I'm really sorry. Let me do close. Okay, I could do close anyway. I couldn't save it, but normally I can save it, and there is never a problem. So sorry, and bear with me. What we can do then is I could do it again, but I don't wanna. Let me do it again really quick. If no, I'll just use one that is already done. I really want to prove to you that it works. Scripted. I'm just gonna put instead. Yep. Okay. Maybe it's because I was there a little bit too long. Okay, so then as soon as I create my production, this is where it comes, yeah? So it comes to the carbon footprint page, yeah? And here, if I want to go back to the production, it doesn't change anything. I can go and change anything, yeah? And edit whatever I want. And here I have the carbon action plan. What normal broadcasters ask you to do, so in the UK is mandatory, and I think for TG-CAR as well, it's mandatory that you do the carbon footprint, that is the measuring, yeah? So here, as you can see, you have lots of help text that, again, I do recommend you go through the help text a lot, yeah. And here is my footprint data. So I'm going to have the total tons of CO2, the tons of CO2 per hour of output, what I was mentioning you, and the offset cost. The offset cost is just, you don't have to offset on a mandatory basis. It's just a guidance for you if you want to offset. And only UK-based or UK-commissioned productions have to offset in a compulsory way. Outside the UK, it's not. And the price is given by a project that we said that is called Creative Offsets that you can find on our website. But if you choose to offset and you want to offset with your own company or your own project, that is completely fine. Yeah, you just have to contact that project, give them your total tons of CO2, and then they tell you how much it would cost to offset. Apologies in advance because this is in pounds. That's something that we're struggling. I want to build a live calculator exchange and currency exchange behind the calculator, but we on it. Yeah. Okay. So what are we measuring? We're measuring non-filming spaces, filming spaces, travel and transport, accommodation, materials, disposal, and post-production. Really important, what we recommend is that you do a draft footprint during pre-production. So during pre-production, you should start entering data. Grab your budget, guess where you're going to be, guess what you're going to be doing. I mean, obviously with the budget, it's going to guide you quite a lot, and then create a draft. With this draft, you'll understand better your impact, but most importantly, you'll know what you need to be measuring along the way. So for example, I'm going to ask you, if you're building a set, I'm going to ask you how many liters of paint you use. You're going to go at the end of the production to the construction company and ask them that, and they want to know because they don't monitor that. But if you know that from pre-production, because you're looking at the footprint and you're trying to complete it on a draft, then you're going to know that you need to go to the construction company and ask them, listen, can you count how many liters of paint you've used and tell me that at the end of the production? Yeah, this is really important. So let's go into, for example, let's say non-filming spaces. Yeah, so I can go view or edit or add new. If you see here, I know how many entries I have for every kind of topic inside the non-filming spaces, and then I know how many draft entries I have and how many finalized entries I have. Yeah? So I click on add new, and then I go to the non-filming spaces. And what I'm doing is I'm generating a list. Yeah. So for example, I'm going to go home office. Yeah. I have people working from home, of course. Here I've got the country and the region. Imagine that you have people working in another country. So that entry, you just change the country just for that entry. Yeah, that's really important in terms of the emission factors on the back end of the calculator. Description, you can put whatever you want if you want to, just for us to have the auditor to have more information. And then you click on production office, because what do I measure in a production office? Yeah, I know production office, not a home office. How many people is working from home? So I've got 6 people working from home. How many days they working from home? So they're working from home 30 days. This is a benchmark, yeah? And then, do all these houses have green energy? Yes or no? Yeah. Imagine that you have 3 people working from home that they have green energy, and 3 people that they don't. So you will have to do 2 entries on that. Yeah. Okay. So here I put save draft or finalize, but not because that's my pre-production stage. I click on save draft. For example, imagine I want to do my production office. Yeah. Production office. So you can write as many notes as you want. What do I measure? I'm measuring my production office. What do I measure here? Electricity, gas, heat and steam, or generators. Obviously, in Ireland, you don't need generators in a production office, but some countries, they do still. So I'm measuring electricity. If you want to measure gas as well, again, you have to do another entry for that one. Yeah, so I'm doing electricity. How do I measure it? For production office, I always recommend you that you use a benchmark, because it's really difficult that you know the consumption per person. And the only thing I want to know here is how is the consumption per person only for the people that works for that program. But probably in that production office, you're going to have other people from other programs, maybe if it's a headquarters building, for example. That's a benchmark. So I'm going to select what is my office closest to on these 4 options. Yeah, but maybe I don't even know what does that mean, air conditioned standard. Yeah, so I click on the question bubble, and here I have an explanation. So always, if you see a question bubble, I would recommend that you have a look at. Yeah, so clicking, so I have an air conditioned standard and how many people is working there. So it's 8 people, how many days? So imagine 50 days, yeah? 50 days each person, no in total, each person. I don't have green energy or no, and I save draft. So as you can see, I'm generating a list, yeah? And it tells me if they are draft or finalized entries. Okay, so let's go back. So if I go back to my main page for the footprint, I can see that my data is starting to populate. So is live. Yeah. So let's go for example, on travel and transport. That is the fun one and the biggest one, I would say. So I'm going to go on travel and transport. And imagine that I want to do production cars, yeah? And imagine I have 5 production cars, yeah? I'm just putting it on the notes, so everybody understands which entry I'm doing. So here I've got air travel, road travel, rail, boat, couriers, and freight. So obviously this is road travel. I'm going to click on road travel. And it's asking me, so what are you measuring in terms of road? A car, a coach, a local bus, a motorcycle, a truck, a van, an AGV, etc., or a taxi, yeah? If you see here, so I want to measure a car, but it says large, medium, small, or unknown, because maybe I don't know, because maybe I haven't hired the car because this is a draft. Yeah? How do I know what that means? Large, medium, small, etc. Again, question bubble, and here we explain you what we mean by the sizes. Yeah. So imagine I want to measure a medium car. So here, if you remember, I said that I have 5 production cars. So instead of doing 5 entries, if all the cars use the same type of fuel and they have the same size engine, let's put them in 1 entry. So it's less work for you rather than having to do 5 entries. Yeah. However you want. Some people want to do 5 entries, and some people just want to do as less entries as possible. So here we give you different options. You can measure by distance, or you can measure by fuel. So again, if you look at this production, you can already go and ask the relevant people the relevant questions. So I'm going to measure by distance. So what's my fuel type is gasoline, imagine, yeah? So distance, so I can put 400, so in total they did 400. Again, you want to do kilometers or miles, up to you. How do you measure? I think probably you measure in kilometers, I'm not sure. Okay, but imagine that I want to measure by fuel. So I say which fuel I'm using, gasoline, and then I can measure by fuel amount or fuel spent. So I can do fuel amount, and I just put how many liters or kilograms or US gallons, or by fuel spent. If I do fuel spent, and already I have my own currency, yeah? And one thing, what can happen is that, so I'm going to do save draft, yeah? So what can happen is that during pre-production, maybe you put things as much as you can by spend, because that's the data that you have probably in your budget. But then at the end of the production, maybe you know the kilometers or the miles, yeah, or the amount of fuel. So we actually recommend that you don't enter how much you spend when you have the real data, yeah. So then imagine now imagine now I've done all my pre-production and all my draft, yeah, and I have my footprint. See, all this has changed already. I've showed the footprint to my custom crew, I explained it to them, the draft, and now I am already filming and people is collecting data, it's giving me the data, and then I rewrite that data, yeah, because one of the things, imagine that we are at the end of the production and I want to submit. I can't submit. If you look at here, I can't submit anything. There is no button. Why? Because everything is entered as a draft. Yeah. So then I need to go here view and edit, and I need to finalize every entry that I have. Yeah, so I change whatever it was. Imagine, no, I didn't have 8 people, I had 10. Yeah, so I'm going to click on finalize. Or maybe this entry doesn't exist anymore. No, yeah, I didn't have anyone working from home, so I'm just removing that entry, and that's it. Yeah, and then I'm going to go to travel and transport. And here, so imagine here, I say, okay, I don't want to measure by fuel spend now. I want to measure by fuel amount or by distance, whatever you want. And I have 300 liters, which I don't think is that much, but anyway. And I click on finalize. So visually, I know that everything is done, okay? And then if I go back, I can now submit for audit, okay? So carbon action plan, I'm conscious of the time, there's so much to talk about. So carbon action plan. Carbon action plan is about taking actions, yeah? So again, you need to start from pre-production. All this, when you sign up onto the tool, we send you a quick start guide automatically, and there is all the workflow in there and the timings, yeah? So it's, you can hear it and read it everywhere, and here there is lots of help as well in terms of text. So I'm gonna add one. I do that on pre-production, and I have different sections for questions, yeah? Communication and engagement, editorial content, production energy, travel, and carbon neutral production. So during pre-production, I'm going to start answering those questions, and it's important because those questions are going to give you ideas on what to do in order to reduce your carbon footprint. So, for example, are you filming in studio? Yes, that question, because then on the carbon action plan is when you achieve the Albert certification that gives you an end credit logo. Yeah, by measuring, we don't give you an end credit logo. It's by doing the carbon action plan and complying with it. So there are questions that they have points around linked to it, and all this information is on our website, on our methodology part. But some questions are just filter questions like this one. So are you filming in studio? Yes. So now I'm going to ask you questions about studio actions. Yeah. Are there measures in place to reduce environmental impact of the building? Yes. Are you using lights? So this is a filter question again. So yes, I'm using lights. So see what you want to ask me about lights. Are you using low energy lighting to reduce the amount of energy needed? So imagine and say no. So you need to comply with this question in order to qualify for the certification. Yeah. So again, on our website, wearealbert.org, you can find the questions first if you want to see them first. And so then I do need to use editing, and that's why it's important you do it on pre-production, because otherwise you can't adapt your actions to the carbon action plan. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to go through all the questions from every section on pre-production. Yeah, I should have saved that, but I'm not saving it anyway. All the questions, and when you arrive to the end of pre-production, more or less, and you're going to submit, or when you know that you're going to be doing those actions, you submit those questions. Once you submit those questions, the Albert team, we're going to receive them, and we're going to choose which questions we need to see evidence for. So and then we're going to submit that, and you're going to receive an email saying, okay, your questions, now you know you can start uploading evidence. And then you're going to see a completely different screen when you log in into the carbon action plan. It's going to show you the questions that you need to provide evidence for. It's important that you submit early, yeah, because then you can start collecting the evidence. We don't want you to be collecting evidence for things that you don't have to prove, yeah? So you collect the evidence, and once you have the evidence, you start uploading the evidence on the website, on here, on the same platform. And then when you have all the evidence, you submit, and once you submit, we'll check the evidence, and then we'll come back to you if we need. So we're going to notify with you through the notification speed. Yeah, obviously you're always going to get an email if we reject it, your carbon action plan of footprint, and then you're going to have to go into the notifications and see what we said. Yeah. And then we're going to go back and forward as many times as we have to until you get approved. If you get approved, and once you get approved, you have the option to download the logo, the credit logo from that same page. Yeah, so it's quite easy. Everything is automatic. Okay, just 5 minutes to go through the reports or less, and then I'll take questions. So the reports, we have 3 types of reports at the moment. Standard reports, we have the standard reports, they generate themselves. So as soon as you submit the footprint, the reports for now are for the footprints. As soon as you submit the footprint and it gets audited and it gets accepted, the report generates automatically. Okay, so then you go to the report section and you'll find it in here. Yeah, and it says the date that we approved it. So actually that's quite good for you to know when your footprint was approved. Then you go to reports, and what you'll see is the same as you've seen before, but on a breakdown. Yeah, so locations. Imagine that your production has been on different locations around the world. So you're going to get the footprint for each country. And then you're going to get a breakdown of every section. So from the production office, so before we were only giving you one number, we were giving you these numbers. Yeah. Now we're giving you a breakdown of each section. Filming spaces as well, a breakdown. Here we tell you if you used green energy, how many tons of CO2 you've saved as well. Travel and transport, we were giving you one number, so now here we give you different numbers, so the number for air travel, for road travel, etc. And then again, road travel, we split it up as well. I think air travel as well. Yeah, air travel, we split it up between the type of flight and if it's economy, if it's business, yeah, etc., etc. Accommodation, materials, if you have recycled or not, how much you recycled, disposal, and post-production, which we don't have it here because I didn't include it on that test production before. Which other reports you can download, actually, this as well. And then the other reports that we have is we have costume reports, that this would be more like the company reports, yeah? So if I want to create one, so here I have 2 options, the combined productions or the compared to average. The combined productions, they are reports that you can do company reports. So I could do, have a look. I really recommend that you really get into it and have a look when you have time. So you can choose the production. So I can go through a list of all my productions and pick which one I want to see all combined. Yeah, we can do that. Or you can do a production query. So you can say, okay, I want all my TV and program series. I want to see all my drama and entertainment productions together. You can choose the production method as well, and you can choose the date. So I want to see all my 2021 productions, for example. Yeah. And then you can choose who can see that, only me or the other athletes, and create it. Or you can do the compared to average report. Compared to average, it would be kind of similar, but I select my criteria, yeah, so I want to see all my drama and entertainment productions. For example, I want to see all my drama productions or one specific production, and I want to compare it to all, for example, all the average footprint of Ireland, yeah. So for example, I want to see, because it's only my production company, and it's, so imagine I want to see Ireland, yeah. So I want to compare everything to another factor of data that we have within Albert. I'm going to show you some examples of them. So here, for example, I have a combined one. The combined ones, they're really similar, really similar, but they're the same as the other ones, yeah, as the standard, but with all the productions that you selected. Here it tells you how many productions you have you have selected, and even if you want, you can download a data dump. So you can actually download, I don't know if it's going to show, it's not going to show it to me on the screen, but you can download a spreadsheet with all the data. So all the data in a spreadsheet. So every carbon footprint of non-filming, of production office, etc., on a spreadsheet. And that really, really helps data people. And now I need to go back to the page that I was. Sorry, guys, I need to stop sharing. Okay, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop here, actually, because I'm conscious of the time and there's so many things to look at. But what I'll do is I'll look at the questions now, okay?
Thanks, Rosa. It was great to go through that in such detail. There's about 10 questions. We just start with the first one and go from there?
Yeah.
So are we okay to share the slides with everyone afterwards?
I'll have to check in terms of the slides. Let me check, because anyway, we have the video on YouTube. But yeah, I'll talk to you, Anthony, about that. Yeah, cool.
Cool. There's a question there about they've completed Albert on a production and was audited and approved. They're asked to upload evidence within 5 days. The 5-day period has passed. Can I still upload evidence?
So I have completed. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. I think the 5 days thing, it's not about you need to upload it in 5 days. What we tell you is that when you submit the carbon action plan, when you submit the questionnaire for the carbon action plan, it's going to take us 5 days to select which questions you need to provide evidence for. That's what we're telling you. Then it can take you can do it whenever you want. You know the timings of your productions. The only thing that we can ask you is that if you want your end credit logo next week, don't send the evidence the day before, because we need at least a couple of weeks to check the evidence. Yeah, but we're not giving you a timeline on when you have to upload your evidence at all.
Yeah, so basically, you're looking at you're saying there a 2-week window.
No, yeah,
at the end.
Yeah, between they upload that, they submit the evidence and we check it. So we need to have 2 weeks in between. Okay. If we were a service studio producing animation on behalf of a production company, some of this information is confidential. Go down. So it would be breaking confidentiality if we provide detailed information about what we are working on. So you are a service company, I understand, working for a production for a project on a production company. But what is, I think we would have to understand more which data is confidential, because is it confidential to say how much energy have you used? I think we would really have to understand that better, probably from Albert, because we have never had that question before, and I think it's about understanding. Maybe you don't want to put your budget completely. You don't have to put budgets, yeah. Or spend. You don't have to put the spend. We give you another option to put the data in.
Yeah.
I do believe that the data that we use is not sensitive. But again, I think you should email us, and we should understand a little bit better about which data we're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. I had the question about the carbon action plan, specifically the editorial question. That's the magic question. One of the questions is positive environmental behavior featured in the dialogue of the program? If the production is a documentary with a service with no dialogue script, should not be ticked because it doesn't? Yes. So don't be scared about answering no to things, okay? We are really conscious on what we making mandatory and what we're not making mandatory. So this question, it's not mandatory to answer as yes, because we understand, for example, you guys don't have dialogue, yeah? But for example, some programs are not contemporary programs, so they don't even have the opportunity to put maybe that text, you know? So yeah, just answer no, and there is no problem at all. And I think there is another question There is another question about the editorial that it let you explain, that it asks you, have you eliminate, I don't remember now the wording, but that you know kind of like showing unsustainable behavior, yeah, and then there you can explain stuff as well.
Yeah. In the next row, it's on there. Should we create a home office for each staff member?
No. Again, what I was telling you, put them all in one line. Yeah, put them all in one line. Put, okay, I have 6 people and they all working 60, each are working 60 days from home. The only thing I said, do 2 entries is if you have ones that they have renewable energy and ones that they don't have renewable energy, but otherwise put them all in the same entry. Okay. Just wondering, why the encouraging crew to choose vegan options is there for people with IBS and other health issues, etc. This is an option and can cause offense. So I think this should be removed. Okay. Again, the actions that we ask you to do, they are actions that they're going to reduce the carbon footprint, and this is a fact. And it's a fact that vegetarian and vegan options, they have a lower carbon footprint than meat options, for example. We are not telling you that you have to do it. The Carbon Action Plan is a tool. Everything that we're giving you is a tool to help you to reduce. We're not telling you that you need to ask everybody to eat that, but you could have the option for the people who wants to eat it or who can eat it to have it. Yeah, so it's really important. It's the same with the carbon footprint. If your carbon footprint is 1,000 tons of CO2 per hour of output, obviously it's horrible, but we're not going to judge you because you are producing. You are not a sustainability service. You are producing. So these tools are about measuring, understanding their impact, and seeing if you can do something about it. And then the Carbon Action Plan is just giving you ideas and facts on what are the best actions that are going to help you reduce. You don't have to do that. Yeah?
Yeah. Thanks for that, Rosa.
Cool. Is the final report the document you send to the broadcaster? Good question. Normally, I think, I don't remember what TGCAR is asking you, but I know in the UK, so BDCs, RTDs, etc., what they asking you to send is the confirmation email. So once we audited your footprint and we have approved it, the users and reviewer are going to receive an email saying your carbon footprint has been approved, etc., etc. And that's the email that the majority of broadcasters want. I think if you send them the report, it's cool as well. I mean, they have access to your report anyway, but I think it's a good thing to do. It's a good idea to do as well. But I recommend you ask your broadcaster what they exactly want, actually. We'd love to know more about carbon offsets. Is there a feeling that will become mandatory? Current price here seems very low. Yeah, that's a completely other session, the carbon offsets. I recommend if you go to our website and if you put on the search bar creative offsets, we can explain you about our project. So the reason why it's mandatory in the UK is because we've been having Albert for the last 10 years, and we've been having this conversation for the last 10 years about reduction. So we don't believe on measuring and offsetting. You're never going to get an end credit logo if you just measure and offset. So you need to take, you need to reduce. So you need to take actions to reduce first, yeah? And that's why it's not mandatory in the rest of the world, because we have not been educating the industry long enough in terms of reduction. So we don't want to make offsetting mandatory. Yeah. Now the price seems really low. It depends. Some people tell us that the price is really high. So the price that we put is 9 tons and £9 per ton of CO2. You have projects that they have much higher and projects that they have much lower. So again, it's a completely other conversation. Yeah. Have been asked to upload evidence of completing an Albert course. How do I get this? Okay, so you have been to we have open trainings on our website that is They are Albert Sustainable Production Training or Albert Editorial, if you're part of the editorial team. If you have completed that training, they are 2 hours long and they're for free. If you have completed that training, they had sent you probably a certificate saying that you have completed it, and a stamp as well. So that's what you need to upload. Yeah. If you have gone to that training and you haven't received anything, I recommend you email albert@bafta.org and ask them. Yeah. Okay. So, do I have to fill in every section in the carbon footprint data before finalizing? Many of the headings are not relevant to my production. No. Again, we need to give options for every type of production on the footprint. But if you're asking you about air travel, but you haven't used air travel, you just don't put air travel. That's it. You just input whatever is accountable for your production, whatever is relevant to your production. Makes sense? But I haven't anyone answering me, but hopefully it does.
It does.
For the studio shows that are created on a weekly basis, yearly, internally with the broadcaster, is there an option for that? So for what I call them continuing programs, yeah. So for example, yeah, soap or yeah, any show, or even news. A news program doesn't have series, no, doesn't have seasons. So what you would do is you would get the first date that you start measure. So you say, okay, I'm going to measure from 1st of January to 31st of December, and that's where you take the data from, yeah. Or maybe you want to measure from 1st of April to 31st of March, however you want. But yeah, you need to measure series by series, and when it's a continuing program, we would say annually. Yeah, you measure it annually, and that's it. I don't know. Yeah, you measure it annually in terms of measurement, and the carbon action plan, it needs to be updated every year as well, annually. Any suggestions on how to reduce waste during the pandemic? Because we cannot carpool to reduce emissions. Okay. Again, on our website, we are albert.org. We have lots of case studies of productions that they reduced their carbon footprint during pandemic. We are aware that we're using more materials, but at the same time, for example, when we're traveling, you mentioned carpooling. Obviously, you cannot share, but you're probably traveling less people to location. Yeah, there is a really good example on Emmerdale, for example, which I know is a continuing drama, but how they did, instead of before, they used to move the units, so they used to move the teams from location to studio all the time. And now what they did with the pandemic, they created static units, and who moves are the actors. So you are avoiding moving 60 people 3 times in one day. So okay, you're generating more waste because of COVID, in terms of masks, which actually they use reusable masks, but you are reducing a lot your travel. Yeah, there is another examples of remote direction as well. So people who's been directing remotely, so again, that reduce a lot the amount of travel that you've been using. So there is lots of ways in terms of materials. So again, example from Canada, they use reusable masks. Some people don't believe on them. So again, that's everyone's option. And for example, they ask them to bring their own cutlery. To bring their own cutlery, to bring their own bottle, so they don't have to be using one single-use cutlery all the time. So it's about being creative, I believe, here. If there is a co-production with Ireland and the UK, would this make the carbon offset mandatory? That's a really good question, because I'm not sure we had that example yet. I don't have an answer to this. I do recommend you email us, and then I think we can discuss it, because probably it depends. I mean, we can be quite flexible on that, but also let's see which UK production company we're talking about. But yeah, I do recommend, sorry, that you email albert@bafta.org, and then we can discuss that. Sorry. Our regional admin has finished working with us, and we do not have access to her account. Can we request a new account, or should we email you to try? Yeah, email albert@bafta.org. explain that, and then what we probably going to be do, if we're going to ask you who should be the admin, and then we can set the new person as an admin, and then we can remove, or you can remove the old person. Yeah, that should be really straightforward. Do you have a checklist document on all the questions in the calculator that you could send to us separately? Not for the calculator. We have it for the carbon action plan on the website. So on the website, if you go into section that says production or production tools, there is a subsection that is called methodology, and there we have the calculator methodology, we have the carbon action plan scoring criteria, and then we have the questions for the carbon action plan. The reason why we don't have the list of things to measure is because if you would see the spreadsheet that we build it on, it has thousands and thousands of entries. Why? Because it's not about what you need to measure, it's about the different options that we give you on measurement. So you remember that we said you measure road travel, you measure car, and then you have car medium, car large, car blah blah, and then you can measure by distance, you can measure by fuel. So the quickest thing to do it is you go through the tool, and then you note in which kind of ways you want to measure and what you need to measure.
I believe we have run out of questions, which I feel is a very good time to end this fantastic session.
Okay, and I'm sorry if I know I was talking a little bit fast, but it's just, as you could see, so much that we need to cover in an hour is really difficult. And the echo, it's nothing I can do, sorry, I'm in a co-working area. But if you have any further questions, you can email always albert@bafta.org and we'll answer, we'll help you from there.